Nobody understood why the dog protected the homeless man until they saw the footage. The security camera captured something that would change everything. A massive German shepherd stood guard over a sleeping homeless man, teeth bared at anyone who came close. But when authorities finally reviewed the full footage, they discovered a truth so powerful it would shake an entire community to its core. The mysterious guardian. It started on a cold November morning in downtown Portland. Shop owners arriving to open their businesses noticed something unusual. A large dog sitting perfectly still beside a homeless man sleeping in a doorway. The dog wasn't aggressive at first glance, but there was something intense about the way it watched everyone who passed by. "At first I thought it was just his pet," said Maria Gonzalez, owner of the corner bakery. "But there was something different about this dog. The way it looked at people, it was like it was protecting something precious." The homeless man, later identified as 52-year-old Robert Chen, appeared to be in his 50s, with weathered skin and tattered clothing that spoke of years spent on the streets. He slept soundly despite the morning traffic, seemingly unaware of his four-legged protector. But the dog was very aware. Every time someone walked too close, the animal would tense, a low growl rumbling from its chest. When a well-meaning passerby tried to offer Robert a cup of coffee, the dog stood up, placing itself between them, and the growl became more pronounced. "I've never seen anything like it," said James Patterson, who witnessed the scene. "This wasn't just a pet being territorial, this was something else entirely." A pattern emerged. As the day wore on, the situation became more puzzling. The dog never left Robert's side, not even to eat or drink. Several people tried to approach with food and water for both man and animal, but the dog refused to let anyone get close enough. By afternoon, concerned citizens had called animal control and the police. Officer Sarah Mitchell was the first to respond. "When I arrived, I could immediately see this was no ordinary situation," Officer Mitchell recalled. "The dog wasn't showing typical aggressive behavior. It wasn't barking or lunging. It was simply guarding. And there was something almost desperate in its eyes." Officer Mitchell tried to approach slowly, speaking in calm tones, but the dog wouldn't budge. Every attempt to get close to Robert was met with the same response. The dog would position itself as a barrier, making it clear that no one was getting through. "I've worked with dogs for 15 years, said Animal Control Officer David Lee, who arrived shortly after. "This dog wasn't aggressive for the sake of being aggressive. It was protecting someone it loved. But more than that, it seemed like the dog was trying to tell us something." The standoff continued for hours. Robert remained asleep, or perhaps unconscious. It was hard to tell. The dog never relaxed its vigil. As the sun began to set, a crowd had gathered, with people recording videos on their phones and sharing them on social media. Are you moved by this incredible story? Keep reading to discover what the surveillance footage revealed and why this dog's loyalty went far beyond what anyone could have imagined. The decision to review the footage. As night fell, the situation reached a critical point. Robert still hadn't moved, and concerns for his health were growing. The dog had now been standing guard for over 12 hours without food, water, or rest. "We had to make a decision," Officer Mitchell explained. "Either we forcibly removed the dog, which could result in someone getting hurt, or we figured out what was really going on here." That's when someone suggested checking the security cameras. Several businesses in the area had surveillance systems that covered the street. If they could piece together footage from the past 24 hours, maybe they could understand why this dog was so determined to protect Robert. The local precinct gathered footage from 5 different businesses. What they discovered would soon go viral, touching the hearts of millions around the world. The footage began at 6:47 p.m. the previous evening. Robert could be seen walking down the street, moving slowly, appearing unsteady on his feet. He was alone. There was no dog with him. At 7:03 p.m., Robert stopped walking. He leaned against a building wall, then slowly slid down to a sitting position. Even through the grainy security footage, it was clear something was wrong. Robert's movements were labored, and he seemed to be in distress. For the next 20 minutes, dozens of people walked past Robert. Some glanced at him briefly, others deliberately looked away. No one stopped to help. At 7:24 p.m., something changed. The dog appeared. A large German shepherd came into frame, trotting down the sidewalk. The dog stopped when it saw Robert. For a moment, it just stood there, watching. Then it approached. The dog sniffed Robert carefully, then sat down beside him. Minutes passed. The dog remained perfectly still, as if thinking, as if making a decision. Then Robert's body began to shake. He was having some kind of seizure. The dog immediately sprang into action. It began barking loudly, trying to attract attention. Several people looked over, but upon seeing a homeless man and a barking dog, they hurried past, some crossing to the other side of the street. The dog didn't give up. It continued barking, running a few steps towards passing pedestrians, then back to Robert, then towards people again. It was clearly trying to get help. "This was the part that broke my heart," said Officer Mitchell, her voice thick with emotion. "This dog was desperately trying to save a stranger's life, and everyone just kept walking." After Robert's seizure subsided, he slumped over, unconscious. The dog gently nudged him with his nose, whimpering softly. When Robert didn't respond, the dog did something extraordinary. It carefully positioned itself next to Robert's body, placing its head on Robert's chest. Those watching the footage later realized the dog was checking for a heartbeat, a behavior often trained in service dogs. A long night of protection. Throughout the night, the security footage showed the dog maintaining its vigil. Every time someone approached, the dog would stand, placing itself between the stranger and Robert. It wasn't attacking or being needlessly aggressive. It was simply making clear that Robert was under its protection. At 2:37 a.m., 3 young men approached. The footage shows them laughing and pointing at Robert. One of them pulled out his phone, apparently to take a photo or video. The dog immediately moved into action, standing tall and growling. The young men backed away quickly. At 4:15 a.m., the temperature had dropped significantly. The dog did something remarkable. It lay down pressed against Robert's body, sharing its warmth through the cold November night. "Dogs have a higher body temperature than humans," explained veterinary Dr. Lisa Wong, who later reviewed the footage. By lying against Robert like that, the dog was literally keeping him warm, potentially preventing hypothermia. This is sophisticated helping behavior. This story gets even more incredible. Don't stop now. The most shocking revelation is still to come. The morning revelation. As dawn broke and the dog continued its protective stance, investigators made a crucial discovery. They ran a check on the dog's microchip after finally getting close enough with specialized equipment. The dog's name was Max, and his owner had been searching for him for 3 days. Linda Chen, a 28-year-old veterinary nurse, had reported Max missing after he slipped his collar during a walk in a park 3 miles away. She had been posting flyers, checking shelters, and driving around the city desperately looking for her beloved pet. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Linda Chen was Robert Chen's daughter. Robert and Linda had been estranged for over 5 years. After Robert lost his job during the 2008 financial crisis, he had fallen into depression and eventually turned to alcohol. His addiction destroyed his marriage and pushed his daughter away. Too proud and ashamed to ask for help, Robert had ended up on the streets. Linda had tried to help her father numerous times, but their relationship was fractured. The last time they spoke, nearly 2 years ago, it had ended in a painful argument. Robert had told Linda to stop trying to save him and to live her own life. Heartbroken, Linda had eventually stopped trying to contact him. She had no idea her father was homeless in the same city where she lived. Max, however, had found him. The connection. "Dogs have an incredible sense of smell," Dr. Wong explained. Max would have been familiar with Robert's scent from when Linda and her father were still in contact. Even years later, even with all the other smells of the city, Max recognized him. The investigation revealed something even more touching. When Max escaped from the park, he hadn't been running away. He had been following a scent trail. Somehow, against all odds, Max had tracked Robert's scent across 3 miles of urban landscape. And when Max found Robert in distress, the dog's training as a therapy dog, Linda had been training Max to help with her work at a nursing home, kicked in. Max recognized that Robert needed help and needed protection. What we witnessed wasn't just loyalty, said animal behaviorist Dr. Raymond Hughes, who studied the footage extensively. This was empathy, problem-solving, and dedication that went beyond instinct. Max understood that this human was connected to his human, and he was willing to stand guard for as long as it took. For over 18 hours, Max had protected Robert Chen. He had gone without food or water. He had stayed alert through the cold night. He had chased away potential threats and kept a dying man warm with his own body heat. The rescue. Once authorities understood the situation, they knew they had to act carefully. They called Linda Chen and asked her to come to the location immediately without explaining why. When Linda arrived and saw Max, she burst into tears of relief. But then she saw who Max was protecting. "Dad?" she whispered, her voice breaking. The security footage from that moment shows Linda falling to her knees. Max, recognizing his owner, finally relaxed his guard, tail wagging, moving between Linda and Robert as if to say, look what I found! Look who needs help!" Paramedics quickly moved in to help Robert. He was severely dehydrated and had dangerously low blood sugar, which had triggered the seizure. Another few hours without help, and he might not have survived. As they loaded Robert into the ambulance, Max jumped in beside him, refusing to leave. Linda climbed in too, holding her father's hand for the first time in years, tears streaming down her face. "I'm here, Dad. I'm here. I'm so sorry. I'm here." The ambulance. Robert Chen woke up in the hospital 2 days later. The first face he saw was Linda's. The second was Max, who had barely left the hospital room. The reunion between father and daughter was private, but Linda later shared that it was filled with tears, apologies, and healing words that had been waiting years to be spoken. "Max saved my father's life," Linda told reporters outside the hospital. "Not just physically, but he brought us back together. I thought I had lost my dad forever. I had accepted that he was gone from my life. But Max, a dog I'd only met briefly years ago, saw something worth saving. He didn't judge me for where I was sleeping or what I looked like. He just knew I needed help, and he stayed." Robert and Linda's relationship healed slowly but surely. They started with weekly dinners, then moved to daily phone calls. Linda invited her father to her apartment, where Max would greet Robert with the same enthusiasm he showed Linda. "It's funny," Linda said. "Max loved my dad even when my dad didn't love himself. Sometimes I think dogs understand love better than we do. They don't hold grudges, they don't let pride get in the way. They just love, purely and completely." The impact. The security footage of Max protecting Robert went viral after the local news covered the story. Within a week, it had been viewed over 50 million times across various social media platforms. People around the world were moved by Max's loyalty and the powerful reunion between father and daughter. But the story's impact went far beyond internet views.
The Portland Homeless Coalition reported a 300% increase in volunteers following the story. People were inspired to help, to not walk past those in need, to see the humanity in every person, regardless of their circumstances. Max's actions were a mirror, said homeless advocate Jennifer Thomas. They showed us our own indifference. Dozens of people walked past Robert that night. Some even saw him having a seizure and did nothing. But a dog, a creature that owed Robert nothing, stayed with him for 18 hours. It made people question what it means to be humane. Several businesses in the downtown area where Robert had been found started an initiative called Max's Mission, providing food, warm clothing, and medical care for homeless individuals. They also worked with local veterinarians to provide free care for the pets of homeless individuals, recognizing that these animals are often their owners' only companions and lifelines. The story also sparked conversations about estranged family members and the invisible homeless population. Many people reached out to family members they hadn't spoken to in years, inspired by Linda and Robert's reconciliation. 1 year later, on the anniversary of the night Max found Robert, the family returned to that downtown street corner. It looked different now. The doorway where Robert had nearly died was painted with a mural, a beautiful image of a German shepherd with the words, "Be someone's Max," written beneath it. Robert stood in front of the mural, Linda beside him, Max sitting proudly between them. A small crowd had gathered, including many of the people who had been there that night. Officer Mitchell, David Lee from Animal Control, Maria from the bakery, and others who had witnessed Max's incredible vigil. "I'm alive because of many people," Robert said, addressing the crowd with a steady voice. "Because of the doctors who treated me, because of my daughter who forgave me, because of the programs that helped me get back on my feet. But I'm here, standing before you, because of Max. Because one dog decided that a stranger's life was worth protecting." Max barked once, tail wagging, as if acknowledging the recognition. "I've been given a second chance," Robert continued, "and I won't waste it. I now volunteer at the homeless shelter 3 days a week. I share my story with others who are struggling, and every day I try to be more like Max, to see people not for where they are, but for who they are." The science behind the loyalty. The story of Max and Robert fascinated animal behaviorists and researchers worldwide. Dr. Raymond Hughes conducted an extensive study on Max's behavior with Linda's permission. What Max demonstrated goes beyond typical canine behavior, Dr. Hughes explained in his published paper. He showed what we call third-party helping behavior, helping someone who is connected to his primary human, even though that person is essentially a stranger to the dog. This requires complex social understanding and empathy. The research revealed that Max likely recognized Robert's scent as being associated with Linda, remembered him from brief encounters years ago, and understood that he was important to Linda. When Max found Robert in distress, his training as a therapy dog, combined with his natural protective instincts, created the perfect guardian. Dogs co-evolved with humans over thousands of years. They learned to read our emotions, anticipate our needs, and in cases like Max, even understand our social connections. Max's actions weren't just instinct, they were a conscious decision to help, to protect, and to persist until help arrived. Life today. Today, Robert Chen works part-time at a veterinary clinic, the same one where Linda works. He helps care for the animals and shares his story with clients, especially those facing difficult times. "Every day I get to work alongside my daughter and Max," Robert says with a smile. 3 years ago, I was sleeping in doorways, alone and forgotten. Now I have family, purpose, and a roof over my head, all because a dog refused to give up on me." Max, now 8 years old, has become something of a local celebrity. He visits schools with Linda and Robert to teach children about empathy, loyalty, and never giving up on those who are struggling. He's also a certified therapy dog who visits nursing homes and hospitals. But perhaps his most important role is as the bridge that brought a father and daughter back together. "Max didn't just save my father's life that night," Linda reflects. "He saved our family. He showed us that love doesn't give up, that loyalty isn't conditional, and that second chances are possible. We had both given up on each other, but Max never gave up on either of us." If this story moved you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And remember, we can all be someone's Max, choosing compassion over indifference, action over apathy, and love over judgment. The message. The story of Max, Robert, and Linda carries a message that resonates far beyond one night in Portland. It speaks to the best of what we can be, both as humans and in our relationships with animals. Dogs have been our companions for thousands of years, but stories like Max remind us why. They show us unconditional love. They demonstrate loyalty without expecting anything in return. They see the best in us even when we can't see it in ourselves. But perhaps more importantly, Max's story is a mirror that reflects our own choices. Every person who walked past Robert that night had the opportunity to be a hero. They chose not to see, not to engage, not to help. It took a dog to do what humans should have done. This isn't meant to condemn those people. We've all walked past someone in need at some point. We've all been too busy, too uncomfortable, or too uncertain to help. But Max's story challenges us to do better. The legacy continues. The Chen family has become active in animal welfare and homeless advocacy. They've helped create programs that keep homeless individuals and their pets together, recognizing that these animals are often their owners' only companions and lifelines. Before this experience, I didn't understand the bond between homeless individuals and their animals. Now, I see these dogs and cats are more than pets. They're lifelines, they're family, they're reasons to keep going. The Be Someone's Max campaign has expanded to other cities, encouraging people to look out for vulnerable members of their communities, both human and animal. The simple message resonates. Loyalty, empathy, and action can save lives. Final thoughts. Nobody understood why the dog protected the homeless man until they saw the footage. But the footage showed more than just a dog standing guard. It showed the power of loyalty, the possibility of redemption, and the invisible threads that connect all of us. Max didn't know that Robert was Linda's father. He didn't know that his actions would reunite a family or inspire millions. He simply knew that someone needed help, and he was willing to provide it. In a world that often feels divided and cold, Max reminds us of a fundamental truth. We are all connected. The person sleeping in a doorway could be someone's father, someone's child, someone's friend. They are someone's Max, or at least they deserve to be. Robert Chen, once invisible on a downtown street, now helps others find their own second chances. Linda Chen, who had lost hope of ever reconciling with her father, now treasures every moment with him. And Max, the German shepherd who refused to abandon a stranger in need, continues to teach us about love in its purest form. What will you do with this story? Will you share it? Will you look at the world differently? Will you be someone's Max? The choice, as always, is yours. But remember, loyalty isn't just about who we stand by in good times. It's about who we refuse to abandon in the dark. And sometimes, the smallest act of compassion, staying when everyone else walks away, can change everything.